Welcome to the video for the workforce management demo. The demo itself lets you analyse data for a workforce of support engineers. It's based on information from a utilities company that has a number of field-based staff that are responding to different types of call on locale at customer premises. In this video we're going to take you through 3 scenarios within the data, but firstly I'll just take you through some of the key features of the application. So here you can see we have a straightforward KPI dashboard. Across the top here we have some high-level metrics, we have a map and some standard click view charts. We also have a filters button in the top right, which if you press you'll see a pop-up appears and we can select data from a number of list boxes to start to narrow down or make selections within the data. Pressing close will remove the filters. In the first scenario we're going to take a look at engineers that are not closing calls and also maybe not working a full shift. So I want to focus on my emergencies. These are going to be key order types. So I expand my filter box here and I want to select emergency in the order type. Closing that, I can see that we have a number of calls that are 5 or more days old. So I'm going to highlight those. I want to focus on emergency calls that are actually not being closed because we need to close them as fast as possible. So we can see here that we have 7 calls still open, tagged as emergencies. And we can see geographically how they're spread out on the map, and they are actually quite far apart. I then want to take a look at the job reports sheet to get some more detail for these. Now straight away something jumps out, the fact that Larry Garcia has 3 calls allocated to him, and we can also see that 2 of these were on the same day. So what I want to do is go back to utilization sheet, and looking at Larry here we can see that on the first, he was scheduled for 8.5 hours and actually only worked 5.2 hours. So he didn't work a full shift and also failed to close the 2 emergency calls that were allocated to himself. The next scenario we're going to focus on is based on the utilization and underutilization of specific engineers. We'll clear our selections and stay on the utilization sheet. Here you can see we have a table that lists all our employees, the total number of scheduled hours, utilised and unutilized or overtime, how many shifts they've worked, so days, and also per day on average, are they underutilised or not. And then we also see a breakdown of the type of job or call they attended. I want to double click the mini chart header to sort the table to give me a list of our largest or most heavily underutilised engineers. I want to make a selection for all the engineers that have 1 or more hours per day where they're not working. So I'm going to select the employees here on the left. This will then drill into give me just these employees and their utilization. We can then move to the job report sheet to see a breakdown or indeed more detail of these employees. I want to focus on in progress jobs. If jobs are already closed, I really don't mind at this moment in time. So we select in progress. If we then move to the job summary, we can see that immediately Marshall Cobb stands out as having 9 jobs, and we know Marshall is underutilized but currently still has 9 jobs open. Selecting Marshall, we can then move back to the job detail and using the cyclic drill here, right click and change to see Marshall's manager, and we know we maybe want to give Mr. Smith a call. Marshall has a number of, he's underutilized and had a number of orders still open, of which a lot are meter readings, which are very simple and easy to close. So again, to summarize, we found out that by just looking at underutilization, we have one engineer that has still 9 calls open, and some of these should be closed easily with them being meter readings, and we maybe want to give his manager a call to understand why, or indeed this engineer, Marshall Cobb, needs more training. The third and final scenario is taking a quick look at if we can reduce the overtime work by employees to subsequently reduce any costs. So if we clear our selections, we can navigate to the utilization sheet. We want to ensure that the table here is sorted by plus or minus per day, and we want the largest at the top. Here we can see that we have a number of employees, if indeed we look down to Clement Cottrell, who are working overtime. If we select these employees by clicking and holding our mouse and dragging up. We can then navigate to the job reports tab here. Looking at the summary, we can see that we have on average 7.3 jobs assigned to these particular engineers over here in the jobs per day column. This is a high number of jobs or completing one shift for one engineer. And we need to double check, is this actually a high number, or are these engineers taking longer to close orders than others? And do we need to retrain to ensure they can close them quicker? If we move to the scorecard sheet, immediately when we open this, you can see we have a table that looks like a scorecard with cells being highlighted. We can see that we have a cluster of red. Now red is where they finish 20% slower than the average. And we can also see that, especially for emergency calls, which is the first portion here, we have a lot of red. So do our emergency calls taking longer to close, or do we need to retrain these employees here to make them close emergency calls faster and therefore reducing overtime? Again, we could select these and move back to the job reports tab and the job detail to understand which managers we need to speak to see if retraining is possible. That concludes the video overview of the Workforce Management app, and you can find it on demo.clickview.com.